The Community Foundation serves two main functions in our community. One is to help individuals and families with their charitable giving, and the other is to support nonprofit organizations through sustainable endowment funds. We have, as you said, about $500,000 that has been coming in from all around the country to support these long-term recovery efforts in our community. And the Community Foundation covers an 11-county region. We cover almost all of FEMA designated areas. There's a few counties that are incorporated under our Community Foundation to the west out of Pensacola. But we are looking forward to being able to help with some impactful grants over the rest of this year to support, as I said, long-term recovery efforts. We are still working on the best way to do that. We are evaluating a needs assessment right now and looking for programs and projects that are serving those communities. Needs to be run or sponsored by a 501c3 nonprofit organization. And if anyone out there is watching and has questions, please feel free to call me at the Community Foundation. The number is 850-222-2899. They're off to a great start for $1 million budget. I think they've got quite a range of income opportunities already, which is great. You've got your earned income through a thrift store or other fee service portfolio, an annual fund. I'm assuming that there are stewardship programs in place to continue to cultivate and strengthen relationships with those donors on an ongoing basis. So it's not just 1 year of support, but hopefully ongoing support that feeds into that pledge campaign, perhaps. Two other things I would definitely look at incorporating would be if the organization is old enough or has been around enough and has a strong enough presence in the community to consider starting an endowment fund for long-term sustainability. Endowment funds are usually best for organizations that have, again, a solid budget, but also a reserve of 6 months to a year, because endowment funds shouldn't be looked at as rainy day funds, but as sort of the 401k for the organization. You save for your retirement, you save for life continued. Well, an endowment fund is funding forever. Literally forever. So that's one opportunity. And you talked about some sponsorships. I'm guessing those would be probably more corporate in nature. So you would also want to evaluate any possible foundation or government grant opportunities that may support your project or program areas. So there's lots of different opportunities with that. I think that creates a broader income base. You definitely want to make sure that there's a solid split so that you're not relying too heavily on any one income area, because should the market take a turn or your regular funding from your local government not, continue because the commissions changed and their perspectives have changed, then you want to make sure that you are not having to cancel much needed programming just because of an unexpected circumstance. I would say database management. Honestly, I think that a lot of our area nonprofits are focused on their passion and their mission, which is where they should be focused, but their donor database or their contact database is kept in an Excel spreadsheet, which is not always the most dynamic, up-to-date document, and information can get left off, columns can get hidden or deleted, and so information can get lost more easily. I think that working with a cloud-based donor database system can really offer a lot of benefits to the nonprofits in our community. They're not as expensive as they once were, and I think it can help steward donors better because the information is able to be maintained on a more consistent basis.
Can you share some examples of some platforms that you've seen that have really just knocked your socks off? This is perfect for a nonprofit.
Sure, I know Razor's Edge is a go-to that's very expensive, so it's harder for smaller ones. Classy offers one. Network for Good is another service that I know of. Honestly, there are so many out there now. It can be a little hard sometimes to narrow it down, so you should definitely do your research and determine what works best for your organization's needs. Some of them tie in with larger platforms like Salesforce and other things, but in part, it depends on what the service model is for your nonprofit. If you are working and doing client service versus an arts and cultural organization that needs to manage ticketing, there are a lot of different factors that should be evaluated in selecting. It's been a pleasure to work with Joy. She's really been a tremendous mentor. This was my first opportunity to work in the community foundation field, and she is known amongst others in the field as a strong go-to for any question. She was the first staff person hired by the Community Foundation Board when it was founded almost a little over 20 years ago, and she's done a tremendous job in bringing the entity from having $1 million in assets to over $70 million in assets, and as you said, making an impact of almost $100 million in our community. So it's really it's going to be a tremendous loss, but we're excited for her and her next adventures with her family, and I know she won't be a stranger, so it'll be good to stay in touch. Goodness, the craziest. I don't know. Honestly, my 8-year-old has quite the personality, and he says a lot of zingers, and so he keeps us on our toes. They're just super fun to be around, and I enjoy spending time with them. And most of my free time is spent on the soccer fields watching their games and practices. So we just love it. Yeah.
Great. And dreaming about being in an art gallery.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Laura, thank you so much for taking the time and for joining us in the Blue Seat.
Yeah, thank you for having me.